When doing politics, it's very easy to get caught up in the midst of the grandeur of it all. You can notice this perhaps if you're a conservative who agrees with every conservative issue, a liberal who agrees with every liberal issue, or a leftist who agrees with every leftist issue. I think in general that shows that the people haven't actually thought individual points through, but are going with it more for the aesthetic of conservatism or leftism or what have you. Politics is meaningless if it's not actually actionable. I think that we should keep practicality in mind when we're theorizing. With that out of the way, as oxymoronic as this may seem, this is a leftist case for gun control. Or at least an explanation as to why gun control might not be as bad as some leftists think. Right-wingers have many reasons to be wary of left-wingers, one of which is that right-wingers, for some reason, seem to think that leftists don't like guns, which is antithetical to leftism, but you can't expect the right to know what a left-winger is, otherwise they'd be leftists. Regardless, right-wingers may be dissuaded from joining the left for fear of giving up their guns. However, many people do not realize that you do get your guns back. You just have to go all the way to the left. And I mean all the way to the left. Far leftists want to entirely restructure society from the ground up, and that means revolution. And you can't have revolution without guns. Ergo, to be a proper leftist, you have to be a gun nut. Many of my right-wing friends actually find this hilariously charming. My liberal friends not so much. Some people might view this as childish and suggest that we must fix society through reform and not violence, which is a nice idea, and we absolutely should attempt to build horizontal modes of governance and social institutions that can potentially replace the government. However, historically, these institutions have either been put down immediately or incorporated into the state. Consider, for example, Germany's healthcare system, which was initially run by German workers themselves before being incorporated into the state apparatus by Otto von Bismarck, who noticed that it had grown organically and outside of the state and feared that it undermined the state's power. For a more in-depth explanation of this, I strongly recommend that you read Reform or Revolution by Rosa Luxemburg, where she tackles this exact issue. Rosa Luxemburg's position, which I regret to say is also my own, is that Marxism is not achievable without revolution. Any attempt we make at social reform can too easily be incorporated into the state apparatus. The state needs to be overthrown. And in order to do that, we need guns. However, frustratingly, we leftists tend not to hoard guns like right-wingers. I saw a man the other day in Starbucks. He drove up in a Jeep, he had a Trump flag, and when he got off I saw that he had a revolver on his belt. He was fat, old, and wore glasses. He looked like a child more than a man. He didn't look like a soldier. And I realized in that moment why right-wingers are allowed to keep guns, and the left is not. The left is not allowed to have guns. The Paris Commune, which was violently suppressed after 2 months, had their guns seized. Most labor movements in early America eventually resulted in the disarming of the populace. The Black Panthers, a radically left-wing gun-toting group, were so terrifying to the right that they caused Ronald fucking Reagan to enact gun legislation to disarm them. Right-wingers taking guns into Starbucks aren't like that. Right-wingers with guns are cosplaying. Why do you need a gun in a Starbucks? Nothing happens there. All guns do for right-wingers is provide a sense of power in a climate of alienation. They pose no threat to anyone. They think of themselves as revolutionaries, but salivate over the very police force that would take their weapons at a moment's notice. We need to talk about the Black Panthers. Can you think of a more perfect example of a well-regulated militia? The Black Panthers were rightly terrifying. There is no reason for a state to fear one man with a rifle. The state is an entire military with rifles. What the state does have reason to fear is several men with rifles, who coordinate with each other, separate from the state, who protect others from the state. The right doesn't do that. The right collects guns, but shuns anything truly revolutionary. These are the seeds of fascism. Fascism is not revolutionary. Fascism is the aesthetic of revolution. The right's idea of revolution was the January 6th insurrection. I cannot tell you how incredibly underwhelming that was when I saw it on CNN. Everyone was freaking out about it. Why? There was nothing revolutionary about it. They clearly had not planned for what would happen afterwards. They wanted to reinstall Donald Trump. How is that revolutionary? Suppose they did succeed and abandon our variants of democracy for fascism. That's the natural course of capitalism. As Lenin pointed out, fascism is capitalism in decay. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're already on that path. The January 6th revolution would have simply sped it up. January 6th wasn't special. Fascism is inevitable for us. There would be no point in critiquing right-wingers if I didn't have to say anything about left-wingers. How can the left be different? Many leftists hold their guns just as tightly as right-wingers do, and they have my sympathy. After all, Karl Marx himself said, "There are no circumstances imaginable, not even victory, under which the proletariat should give up its possessions of arms." And, "Under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated by force if necessary." There's also a spiritual component to this. I feel that the left-wingers who aren't in favor of guns are of the authoritarian variety of leftists, and I despise those people. I'll be perfectly transparent. In my conception of a fully automated luxury gay space communism, in my ideal leftist future, all citizens would be armed at all times in order to facilitate democracy. But I don't think that's an achievable goal right now. I fear that we run the risk of falling into the same trap as right-wingers, using guns to feel powerful instead of making actual political progress. The moment we start cosplaying with our guns, and the left does like to cosplay, we give up any real politics. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should not have guns, but we will likely be disarmed entirely in the near future regardless. What we need first and foremost is not guns, but organization. You can't have democracy without an organized populace. We need to start unionizing again. We need organizations entirely separate from the state and unregulated by businesses where we can discuss how to leverage power and how to act as a group. We need well-regulated militias, not atomized individuals with guns. We need to establish horizontal democracies, governed by workers within the state and against the state. Until we do that, we will not have the conditions necessary for guns to be effective at all. It will not matter if every American carries a rifle at all times so long as we are kept separate, so long as we are isolated from each other. Unless we organize, we're just people taking guns into Starbucks. We will likely lose our guns in the near future, but this isn't as much of a step backwards as it may seem at first. For now, we have guns, but no organization. In the future, we may have organization. And an organized populace without guns is organized enough to take their guns back. Recall the storming of the Bastille, when the French Third Estate overthrew the monarchy. They needed weapons, and they had the manpower to get them. We will need guns, but they are probably going away very soon. What is not going away is our ability to empathize, our ability to talk to each other, and to discuss revolutionary ideas, which truly is inalienable unless they cut our tongues out, unlike the 10 Amendments. We will lose our guns, but by the time we can act effectively with them, we will have the numbers to take them back.